up, guys? Today I'm gonna cover some basic things that I found out about these motorcycle regulators. Maybe difficult to see, but right here I have installed a 4-pin regulator. I will be linking down some pictures or including them in the video so you can see the difference. So I had a problem with this bike a couple of times. After I installed a 100-watt light bulb, it just burned out most of the cables and electronics. So even after I replaced the regulator, the black wire, I had to dig a lot to find out what the hell that was about. It was a sensing wire connected to the ignition switch, and that wasn't working properly. So it was giving like 6 volts instead of the 12, 14 volts it's supposed to. So my battery was charging with 18, 17 volts. That's way too much. So at some point, I took the black and red wire and I connected them together, because then you're bypassing the ignition switch. Problem was, I had already driven a little bit with the black wire disconnected, so it's the same as the ignition being off, and it was charging with 17, 18 volts at maybe 7,000 RPM. So it was working for a little bit. It was charging with 14.6, and then the next day I came back, it was back to 18 volts. So this is probably the 5th or 6th regulator that I'm putting in. But it's been a couple of days. I've been driving a little bit around and it's holding up real good. I've heard about these 4-pin regulators that they could burn out if you have a powerful stator. But I think it's mostly the larger types. These are pretty good. They don't really break down that fast. They're more simple, just a smaller housing. I even got so excited that I broke one of these open, and it's exactly the same circuit, just on a larger aluminum case. These burn out pretty fast. The smaller ones, for some reason, they last longer, simpler and better. So I haven't seen that many videos about this in English, mostly some Indian guys doing their best to explain. So I thought I'd put this out there. So what I did, this is my original plug, more or less, from my harness. So I have a red wire, yellow, pink, black, and green, 5 wires. And what I did is I just basically made a plug for the 4-pin regulator with some wires coming out to this plug, so I can plug it into my harness. And I just made sure to match the colors. The white and yellow wires, they don't really matter. Make sure you get the red and green correct, because the white and yellow, they are AC power anyway, no polarity. And I also mounted the regulator with a fan, so it's getting proper cooling. If you mount the regulator somewhere where it's not going to get cooled enough, for example under your seat, it will burn out, and you will get 120 volts AC over everything in your bike, worst case scenario. So I was remaking my whole harness, resoldering everything, reconnecting, and this is how it turned out. This is, by the way, not a Duke. I rebuilt a Chinese moped to look like one, but I mean, it turned out nice. And here is the fan, and it's just blowing air onto this, so it won't get too hot. And if I were to start up my bike right now, I'll need some choke. Sorry about that, guys, came a little bit unprepared. There it is. Just look at the volts and the RPM. And that regulator, it's just holding up so good. It hasn't failed me. Never. I've never experienced that these go bad. But those ones, I've experienced they go bad really fast. So what I would recommend, out of my experience, forget the 5-pin, 5-wire regulator. Get yourself a 4-pin, 4-wire connected. Forget the black wire, and you will have something that's gonna last you. I will be showing a couple of pictures here and there in the video. But basically what happens if you don't connect the black wire, then you are basically not using a part of the circuitry. So you are getting a much higher voltage than you would be regularly, because you're not using some of the capacitors, some of the resistors. Right here, this is the most simplest way, best way. So if you're having problems with your regulator, change to a 4-pin. If you want ripple smoothing, I have not heard anyone or found any information about this either. It's mostly for the old regulators, but you could do this. The red and green wire, you can connect a 220 microfarad capacitor to get a smoother voltage. You basically just connect it in parallel. So negative to the green one and positive of the capacitor to the red one. If you have a 5-pin with a black wire and the green wire, then you just connect the positive to the black wire that goes to the key ignition and the negative to the green. And this is gonna work really well. So I hope this was to some help. It's a long time since I've been posting any videos, so I thought I'd make something about this. It took me a long time, a couple of years, to dig this information, a lot longer than it should have, but I hope this helps someone out there. Have a great one.